This is Remote Ruby.
Have you any remote idea to the meaning of the word?
Happy Thanksgiving.
Happy Thanksgiving.
Technically, it's Happy Black Friday now, right?
Well, it depends where you live, because in Japan, technically Black Friday's over.
Yeah. So
Happy Saturday to Japan.
And only Japan.
Yes. Globes.
We're never going to be able to tell anyone happy anything. Happy 2022.
Is it happy?
yeah. Can you even say I was happy?
Do.
What's up, guys?
Has Black Friday sales at Podia been strong? Lots of traffic, I imagine.
I imagine.
It's funny because I feel like it's went from like Black Friday, then Cyber Monday, then Black Friday month. And it's just basically discounts since middle of November till Christmas or whatever, or even after Christmas. It's just all a blur now.
Yeah, because you can't forget about your New Year's Eve sales or the New Year's Day sales, which are even more important.
Yeah, exactly. Got to get rid of all that old inventory.
Yeah, it's a conspiracy.
Does Adidas not make water bottles?
Adidas does make water bottles, I'm sure. But I need adult sippy cups, so that's why I drink out of the Gatorade bottles. This bottle's been by my side for a long time.
Did you just wake up?
Yeah, kind of.
Okay. That's
I
the
took a
vibe
nap.
I got.
Yeah, I took a nap.
I think
I'm off today.
not only can we hear it in your voice, the other two people on this call can see it in your hair, in your face.
I can see it in your voice, actually.
Well, thank you so much for mentioning that. I look a mess. Thank you, Jason. It feels great.
You don't look
in
a
your
mess.
face.
You look a disaster.
All right. Well, I'll have to go to therapy. So you're on your own.
That's what we're here for, right?
Yeah, that's what Remote Ruby is. I canceled my therapist. He said, I don't need you anymore. I got Andrew.
Oh, good. That's exactly what everyone wants in their life. If you want your life to turn into a train wreck. Did y'all do anything fun yesterday?
Eat food.
Eat
I
food?
dropped a whole pitcher of mimosas that I made. So
That does sound fun.
it's great. No, it was good. We ate. The kids played. Yeah. What did you do?
What did I do? What does a single person do on Thanksgiving? I made my own lunch, dinner, food. I eat like in the afternoon, so it's like lunch and dinner. And then I pretty much play Warzone too the whole day. And I got really frustrated and I screamed at children and got screamed at by children and overall was miserable. But at the same time, had an insanely fun day.
It's good because your family's off in North Carolina and you're in Arizona.
Yep.
You could have flown to Memphis.
I could have, but I don't really want to fly anymore. I don't like flying around the holidays.
Yeah. I don't really love flying, period. So
it's a massive chore to me. It doesn't bother me. I'm not scared. Like if anything, I'm the one telling people beside me that the plane's most likely to crash on takeoff. The whole traveling aspect is just boring.
It's exhausting.
Yeah. So Ruby.
I mean, we got a new Ruby version out, right?
Ruby
So
version.
we're thankful for the CGI security fix, I guess.
CGI animation.
Yeah.
Oh, maybe. Could be. What was
Is
it
that all
like?
it was just a security fix? I haven't even looked at it.
There was nothing exciting. HTTP response splitting in CGI. If an application generates HTTP responses using the CGI gem with untrusted user input, an attacker can exploit it to inject malicious HTTP. Didn't really say how. Also, the contents for CGI cookie object were not checked properly. Maybe it's that. Set cookie header, inject invalid attributes and set cookie header. But yeah, I don't really know. I don't know if Rack or Rails uses CGI for anything. No idea. Underneath the hood.
We're getting a new Ruby version at Christmas, aren't we?
3.2 is already preview 3, so they are working their way downtown.
Yes. We talked to Richard Schneeman the other day on Ruby for All, and he actually has a feature coming out.
I think I saw him post something about it on Twitter or whatever, but I've completely forgot what it was. I have to look that up and put a link in the show notes. They're no longer bundling third-party sources for libyaml and libffi in Ruby. So if you are going to install it, you're going to need to add those packages, like if you're compiling on Ubuntu or something. So that's interesting.
So Hatchbox changes incoming.
I don't think so. I'm pretty sure we already installed those, so we should be
nice.
fine. Yeah. It's kind of like Heroku has that long list of dependencies they have installed on their build nodes or whatever. And so same deal for us. So it should be pretty much no change there. There's some WebAssembly features in here, it looks like, which is cool. I don't know how many people use that.
Oh, what about the new data object?
Oh, yeah, I saw that.
Yeah.
It's cool.
So it's very much like a struct, except it's immutable. That's what I got from it.
Yeah.
So you could
just
define
like purely a data object.
Right. Yeah. So
yeah.
I could think of accessing like tools that like start up on boot, or like a configuration object that doesn't change. I could think of using that for that. So it's like a struct, it's just immutable. And I think they considered changing struct to maybe accommodate for this, but decided it was going to be too much change or too much work or something. So yep, that's what it is. You do it very much like you would do it as struct. I think just using the data keyword.
Yeah, the class or whatever. I think it'll be super cool. I'm sure it's super fast. So using that for stubbing things in tests or whatever else you might do is going to be slick. And also probably for situations like you want to make an object out of a JSON response or something, taking that and shoving it into a data object or whatever. Although if I remember right, it's not recursive.
I don't think so.
I'm sure like you can do that with most things where you can say like, we'll just build a recursive version and go implement it that way or whatever. So it's not a big deal if it doesn't support it, but it might be cool if you can just shove that into like the JSON parse and say, hey, go create data objects out of all of this. Because I think that'll do it recursively, which is neat. But I'm excited to try it and use it. And I'm curious to see if it'll be super fast and handy in other places. But just the immutability will be awesome. So I like it. Which is kind of funny, though, considering how infinitely flexible and modifiable Ruby is, where like you can modify almost anything. And then like now we have a class that's actually immutable. It's kind of funny.
More Ruby features. So big shout out to everyone who's working on everything that's going to be coming out on Kristen's sets. We are very appreciative.
Yeah, it looks like regex got some speed improvements. Yeah, matching algorithm has been greatly improved by using a memoization technique. So there's an example here that a regex match takes 10 seconds in Ruby 3.1 and 0.003 seconds in Ruby 3.2. That's pretty sweet. That's a big improvement. I'm sure it's like an example case that's like, yeah, this is a really bad one. But they also look to have added a regex timeout. So you can actually tell it like, hey, if this is taking more than a second, somebody might be trying to denial of service us. Regex can at least stop or whatever, which is good. So that's another awesome improvement there. Lots of other little things, but nothing super exciting other than those. Yeah, I'm excited to see all that. Looks like a handful of little changes too, like file.exists ? Has been like deprecated for a long time and finally got removed. And
cool.
We'll link to those notes in the show notes.
Jason and I paired with Colin and several other people the other weekend. I had a lot of fun. Jason, you have fun?
I always have fun.
Oh, great. Colin had a issue that he wanted to create a PR for, and he offered on Twitter for anyone coming out on, I think, what was it, like Sunday, maybe? Saturday, Sunday?
Yeah, it was Sunday afternoon.
Yeah, and so several people showed up and someone got their first open source contribution, and Jason and I hung out. It was a lot of fun. So shout out to him.
What all did you guys do?
We worked on a PR in the Pay gem and kind of went through the whole process of like setting up the gem. And then we realized we needed MySQL installed and kind of figured out how to do that, which Jason was very helpful with because I was half paying attention at that moment. And then we worked on some issue and kind of talked through some things about Rails engines.
Cool. I feel like a pretty common thing, like if you install Rails to actually run the test suite locally, you're like, oh, actually, this runs tests against MySQL, SQLite, Postgres. You realize like, oh, there are a lot of other dependencies that need to be installed just to start running the test suite for a gem. So anything that's fairly complicated that has several databases that it supports or Rails versions or whatever ends up with quite a few little nuances to getting that old test suite running, because it's hard to make those run against, heck, I can imagine Rails probably needs tests against maybe even different Postgres versions, changes between those too. So yeah, fun times.
Yeah. I told Colin that we could set up a dev container for the gem so that you could use code spaces, but code spaces changed the way they're doing like billing now. And I pay for some GitHub features and like I'm already out of like code space storage. And I know it's even less on like the free accounts. So I'm like, maybe, I don't know. I don't even know how it filled up so quickly.
Yeah, I haven't really used any of that, but it would be nice to have that set up, especially for anybody who wants to contribute. Just whatever, hit the period key and you get open up in the code space. Is that right?
No, that opens up the online VS Code.
Oh, right.
So that's not in the code space. So the difference is the code space is basically like a container versus the other. When you hit period, it's just opening up the repository in your browser.
The editor. I wonder, don't they have a way to connect the two, I would think, so that you could edit and then run it in your container or something?
I don't know. The period stuff is like, Microsoft does own GitHub. I think that's like VS Code's thing, I guess.
One day you'll end up just go to github.com and then do all of your work there.
Yeah, but editing in the browser is still kind of aggravating at times. I don't know about y'all, but I hit Control W or Command W way too much. And then I'm just pissed. Because then I have to wait for it to start back up and the containers to initialize, connect to it. I'm like, ugh.
It's like convincing your friends to press Alt F4 back in high school or whatever.
Exactly. Yeah, that's why I use Tmux, because I hit Command Q in my terminal way too much. So I need to be in Tmux sessions.
That's funny. I pulled up just because I was curious the Shopify Globe thing, and it's at like $2.4 million in USD of sales per minute. It's wild to think about.
Yeah.
It's a lot of money.
I was watching that this morning a little bit. That globe thing they do is so cool.
It is really cool. Yeah, because they also show you like the colors or whatever that are over 4,000 kilometers, people buying stuff around the world, and just seeing all that is, it's so cool.
And turning on the shipping routes is really cool too.
Ooh, I haven't done that. Oh, I see that. Yeah. This is really awesome. I don't remember what the highs were the last couple years or whatever, but I remember it was like $5 or $6 million a minute at one point, something like that.
Outrageous.
It's wild. What is it people are buying? Their cheap Black Friday TVs and gaming peripherals and whatever else.
Yep. All on
kinds
the Rails.
Of stuff. Yeah. It would be so much higher if Rails could only scale. Such a shame.
It is such a shame. Such a shame we can't solve these problems.
Yeah, maybe Twitter will get rewritten back into Rails, then it can finally scale.
If they're going to only have 10 engineers in JSON, they might as well.
Yeah, it's true. That's why Jason's so quiet right now. He's working on his...
He's trying to scale.
He's got to put in his 80 hours this week.
Yeah. Jason, why aren't you in the office?
I am.
Oh, crap. He's got a green screen.
He's got to bring his kitchen sink in with him.
Yeah. Bro, that's so stupid. Oh, my God.
Oh, yeah. Trying to think what else I was up to this week. Colin and I were just doing some payments things and refactoring some stuff and just getting ready for Black Friday for us. It's so funny. He suggested that we could just build a little module that has like the start and end times for our sale for Black Friday. And then it would be automatic, because the past, I don't know how many years, I literally go like Thursday night and then edit the pricing page, change the links to the correct Black Friday sale links, add the little banner or whatever manually. And then a couple days later, when the sale ends, I'll just like revert that commit and then go find it the next year and then apply it again and whatever. And he like automated it for us. And it was just weird to like not have to push any commits, not do any code development on Thanksgiving. And we won't have to at the end of the sale. And I was like, why didn't I think of that like 6 years ago?
Hey man, it works.
Yeah, he killed it. So it's been particularly easy this year, which is nice.
Very nice.
It was a good one. The way we ended up implementing it was just a module with a couple constants in there for the times. And like we could make that where it's calculate when Black Friday starts every year or something, but like whatever. We can push that code change up anytime throughout the year if we just leave it hard coded as a constant, or, you know, you could even do that as an environment variable maybe and parse the timestamp or date in the environment variable. And then you could just update the value without having to push any code. That's what we do. So it's not too big of a deal, but making all of that automated was nice. So nice.
Chef's kiss. Nice.
And he keeps reminding me that time objects have the before or after helpers, like the before question mark and after question mark, because every single time I sit down and compare dates, and I'm always like, okay, is greater than or is it less than?
Right.
And then do I need less than or equal to here or whatever? And he's been nudging me to be like, yeah, use before and after. And I'm like, I always forget these exist, but they are really readable. It's really nice to be able to see that in your code. Can't necessarily do that in your SQL queries, but you can do it in your Ruby code and it works out nice. It's just way more easy to comprehend at a glance for me, at least, because they've never sunk in for me. I don't know why, but I think it's because you can do greater than, depending on the order of your arguments there, it's less than or greater than. And so I always have to stop and like think about it for 30 seconds.
I always forget that before and after exists too. I need to start using those more. The worst for me is like, I can never remember the syntax to like compare a date in an active record. So I'm like, I want to get all the records before this certain date. And I'm like, oh, now I got to remember how to do the where. And then you have to like add in the date thing. And then just like, dang it, every single time I got to look that up.
Yeah. And that can be to like, if you're doing sorting, you could do like sort ascending and grab the last one, or sort descending and grab the first one, and whatever, if you're looking for like the maximum or whatever. Yeah, because you can do it a few different ways, I always have to pause and think about it. It's funny how much that can affect your like speed in development.
Yeah.
Hi, my name is Andrew Mason, and I'd like to tell you about Honey Badger. Whether US East 1 is down or you forget to add a configuration file, everyone has an outage from time to time. When your next outage occurs, transparency is critical. The difference between a minor annoyance that people soon forget and a fiasco that creates sustained resentment is how you communicate. That's why you need Honey Badger. Honey Badger is a crucial component of your incident response plan with their uptime monitoring service that now has an exciting new feature, public status pages. Create a new status page with custom domains, branding, and more. Don't let Twitter be the only way your users can find out if your app's down. Sign up for Honey Badger to improve your incident response with a shiny new status page that you'll be proud to show users. Visit honeybadger.io and start giving your users a better experience today. Let them know that Remote Ruby, and specifically Andrew Mason, sent you.
I listened to Gary Bernhardt one time say something about like, yes, you can go look these things up, but if you commit to learning them, you will be so much faster. And I would like to do that, a better job of that, but my memory is also fried.
Those are the things that like, the question always comes up is like, what makes a senior developer or whatever? The people who are more senior have ended up memorizing these things a lot of times or they memorize the way that they tend to do it. Right. You might end up using greater than or equal to every single time, but you could say before or after instead. Oftentimes, I think they'll have memorized those little things and they're just sit in the back of their head and you don't have to look it up every time. It's like getting into Vim and instead of hunting and trying to figure out what the command is to change these 7 words after the cursor, you can just have it in memory and go do it. But it's a lot of habit. It's one of those things that just comes with 10 years of typing in Vim or writing Ruby or Rails or whatever you're doing for however many hours.
Yeah. I've been learning Vim and then I stop and don't use it for a while. And then I go back and I'm like, oh no, I got to remember all these things again and stop using it.
Yeah. Yeah. That's not probably the best recommended way of learning Vim.
It's just really frustrating when you're like, okay, I'm getting to the point where like, I'm just going to stick with it. And then you start pairing with someone at work and you're like, I can't remember how to change a letter. And they're like, dude, production's down. What are you doing? And I'm like, all right,
You're
going
like,
back.
hold on, I got to learn Vim first.
Yeah. Hold on, I got to search the man pages for this real quick.
It can feel stressful to like learn Vim and everything. Yeah, especially if you're pair programming and you're just like embarrassingly slow editing code. That is tough. And yeah, it is what it is. The hope is you get faster, but there's also a lot of cool tools that you get in VS Code and whatever that you can't as easily install in Vim or set up or whatever. So that's trade-offs as always.
Some of those features are really helpful. Like the other day I was working with our designer who can code and will like hop in the code. And he's like, well, I want to change this thing. And he's like, it's hard to find these components. I can't just click on the name. And I'm like, hold on, I got you. We installed that. I made like a extension power back a while back. We installed it together and I was like, all right, now we can install this thing. And then he's like, oh, it just works now. And
nice.
So yeah.
Hey, speaking of that, have you played with the new file browser on GitHub?
Yes.
Are you feeling like out of the loop when you're in it? Because I feel like I was so used to the old layout and things. The sidebar, when I like click on a class name or method name and try and find references to it, I look at the stuff in the sidebar and I'm like, what is this? Where is this? And I've had a hard time like using it or switching to it. It's just different than what it was. It's not a whole lot different, but I don't know where to look anymore to find the answer immediately. And that frustrates me. And it's like, I'll figure it out and get used to it. But it's one that you don't have that same instantaneous access to the information you were looking for. So it makes it just like that much more frustrating.
Yeah. I don't understand why they didn't roll it behind like a feature flag like they usually do so that you could choose to switch to it.
I think I did choose to opt into it.
I always turn every
feature
flag on.
Yeah. We both might have been like, yeah, let's go try this out. It's under the feature preview stuff under settings or whatever.
So I must
know
have turned
that
it on.
You can turn it off. So,
okay.
Yeah.
Well, there's like the new GitHub search that like cs.github.com. And I've been using that kind of extensively recently. So it's not that foreign to me, but I don't know. It doesn't feel great necessarily right now.
Yeah.
I've definitely stumbled around some bugs. I know how software works. Like, I don't care. But it's just like, is it better than the old one? I don't know.
Yeah. It's hard to say.
It'll grow on me.
Yep. Oh, I had this like little tiny thing that I haven't seen happen maybe ever. So I was testing a subscription the other day. One of the things that has been a bug for a little while was if you are on a monthly plan and then you go to the annual plan or whatever, we wouldn't invoice you till the next period. And actually, if you were on like a yearly plan at $50 a year and you went to a yearly plan of $100 a year, you'd end up getting charged like $150 the next time because you would have to pay for all of that at once. So we like changed the way that pay works to invoice you as soon as you make the change. So you get prorated and you pay the whatever, $25 or something that your upgrade price currently would be accredited for. So we were like fixing that in pay, and that works much nicer now. And I've had my frustrations with Stripe, but the frustrations with Braintree are like 10 or 100x Stripe because they don't let you switch from monthly to yearly plans at all. You have to cancel the monthly plan, subscribe them to the yearly plan with a custom discount that you calculate your proration amount. So you got to do all the calculations for that. And apparently I had a couple issues there. One was that I wasn't rounding properly. So the dollar for your discount would be like 11.13567889, whatever, like some giant decimal. It didn't round to the nearest cent. Braintree was like, hey, this isn't a valid amount, so that doesn't work. And then that led into this other bug, which is just a simple ordering issue where we would cancel your current plan and then subscribe you to the yearly plan. But if subscribing to the yearly plan failed, then you'd just be canceled and you'd lose access to everything. And I was like, oh, that's not good. And it was like as simple as changing the order of those two so that we don't cancel your plan until the creation was done. Because canceling is almost never going to fail. So that's not something we have to worry about. But yeah, little things like that. We caught a couple of those this week and we're like, man, they're so easy to miss in testing because you're using valid amounts. You're using these like simple examples. And then you do it in production or something with some weird example. And you're like, oh, this is definitely not right. Colin and I ran into a couple of those this week and we were like, yeah, that'd be a good one to talk about on the podcast because the nuance to writing code sometimes, it's crazy. It's very important. The specific order of operations that you end up doing. It's surprising sometimes.
I've run into some rounding issues at Podia with some stuff. And I was like, okay, I think I fixed it. And then all the tests failed. And I was like, man, I'm digging in here. And I'm like, well, I think these tests are actually wrong. And then Jamie made a good point. Our CTO was like, you should just use a money object. Why are we dealing with all this rounding stuff here? And once I did that, everything just went back to working.
Yeah, the Ruby money library is awesome.
Yeah.
It does a lot of stuff. The currency conversions and heck, even the currency formatting. There's so much to that too. Because some of them have like very different subunits and whatever that than other ones, and or some don't have any at all. And it is kind of wild. So that is, I think, a very underappreciated Ruby gem. Or it's like maybe a couple gems. I think there's a handful.
But there's like the money gem and then there's like the money rails part of it.
Yeah. There's some other ones. Well, I don't know. It might be. It's got Ruby Money as its own GitHub organization.
Yeah,
so
if it came out of Shopify, maybe, but I've never seen it like part of Shopify.
I thought Shopify created one of those gems. Maybe not.
They did Active Merchant.
No,
right?
They created money, like actual money. That's what you're about.
Cheddar. They stack the cheddar.
Gotcha. Okay, I was mistaken. I thought the aliens made money. Now I know.
That is definitely a gem that I highly recommend.
Yep.
Money Rails adds like a type or something into Active Record. Is that right?
I think so.
Oh yeah, your migrations can add money and add monetize.
Yeah, the monetize fields are really nice.
What's the difference?
They like save it into a sense field and then you can access it as like an integer. I don't know. Jason can explain this.
Sorry, I was reading an email about Hawthorne Heights tickets. What?
Oh my God. How does the money gem work?
So I'm going to explain how it works without Active Record and then talk about the Active Record part. So you instantiate this money object and it could be an integer. It could be a string that's like the currency with the amount, stuff like that. And then you can call all kinds of methods on it. But what the Rails side does is it gives you some conventions. So you save the column as an integer of cents and you actually name the column _cents. So like if you had an order, it might be like order total cents, order tax cents, things like that. And then you just say monetize total, monetize tax, and it knows to go look for the cents columns. And then you can say like order.total and you get a money object instead of saying like order.total cents, passing that to money new. Because like orders can have different currencies maybe. At Podia, we support multiple currencies. If you store the currency in a column on the order, then you can say like use the model currency and it'll actually like when it instantiates it, it'll go look at, oh, what's the currency for this record and do all that kind of magic stuff for you. It's really handy.
Yeah. what he said. That's what I meant to say.
Verbatim, actually, yeah. You reminded me that a week ago, I created probably the most important gem, which is called 9 to 5. So you can set the hours of your website to only operate between your business hours, like 9 to 5, for example. And I actually made a screencast building this, but it was a joke from Twitter turned into a real thing. So it's a Rails tie that injects the rack middleware in there and basically compares the current time and says, hey, if it's after the start and before the end, then we'll let you through to the Rails app. But otherwise, we're going to send a response back and say, please come back during business hours. So
Nice.
I think it needs to take a moment and go install that in your Rails app.
Yep. That sounds like it should be default, honestly.
I think we can say that the number of support tickets you get is just going to drastically drop because they're only going to be able to use your website for a few hours at a time. If anybody's binging on your website, you don't have to worry about it anymore. It'll shut itself off.
Yeah.
It's great.
You've kind of solved all the problems in the world.
Yeah. I think it'll give your work-life balance back in check. All this kind of stuff is pretty much solved. So
Yeah.
just a handful of lines of code, really.
Yeah. Netflix really needs this.
Yeah. They've done some Rails gems before. Just import this, Rails 9 to 5 in Netflix. I like it.
I love it.
That's actually a thing that I didn't realize till I left my last job. But like, so we had a customer facing application, but most of the work I did was on like internal tooling. And so like when the business closed at 5 o'clock, so did all the bug reports. So did everything else. And I didn't realize how calm of a lifestyle that was until I wasn't there anymore.
It's so funny when you come across websites that do this stuff. Some places still want to do that. It's hilarious.
I mean, I'd be down. No tickets
Yeah,
means no bugs, right?
Just force push that one to production in Podia. See
Yeah.
how long you got a job.
Yeah. Sure, it'll be great. I've always wanted to get fired by Jason.
I gave up that manager track. So
Yeah.
You could
I still won't accept it until you sit me down.
I'll
Just
fly
think
to
about-
Phoenix.
Yeah.
think about this. You can deploy it to production at the beginning of the business day, and then you can disappear and they won't find out until the end of the day. Then you can cause some serious havoc.
I'm sure that will only go well for me. I will definitely not get sued.
It's like those JavaScript libraries or whatever that set the opacity for clients'
yeah.
websites that they haven't paid for, and it like slowly
yeah.
makes it more and more invisible.
I love those. Those make me laugh.
Yeah, world needs more of this stuff, like the fun things like that.
Yeah, we need more fun stuff on the web.
Yes,
Well.
indeed.
Anything else?
Oh, I don't think so. It's an easy one. Well, Jason seems serious. Jason's in a serious mood today.
Jason's in the zone over there.
Yeah, literally from the time this call has started until now, my mood has shifted like 6 times. It's not been very stable last hour. So sorry, I haven't had much to add.
It's been on a roller coaster over here.
And on top of that, something's triggered my allergies. So
Mhm.
it's not even that I'm like, oh, I'm dealing with all this other stuff. It's I'm crying because I feel like I have cat hair in my eyes.
Well, maybe you do. Maybe someone's injecting cat hair into your HVAC system.
It's a long play.
Elon, dude. It's Elon.
Yeah. Elon's trying
Are we
to
going
get you
back there?
into the
Yeah,
office.
I'm taking us straight back. He wants
I
you
got-
back in the office.
I got my Mastodon account moved from Mastodon XYZ to Ruby Social. And I thought that was like a really big win. And then I thought, is this the future? And it made me really scared.
Amen. Decentralized comes at a price.
The price of using your social network at all.
Now that I'm on Ruby Social, I like Mastodon more. I didn't like it when I was on this other instance and everyone I wanted to follow, it was like I had to put in my handle at this other Mastodon instance for it to like set up the work to do the follow. And I just want to like click a button.
Right.
You take for granted how easy it is to click buttons on websites
Yeah.
when you switch to Mastodon.
Oh, man.
On that note,
Yeah. Call it. Cut it.